Episode 14 begins with Dayan attending a funeral. As he arrives, we see Mando leaving the place, looking deeply saddened. When Dayan places flowers, he notices the landlady there as well. The funeral is actually for Mija aka Gabriel, who was very dear to them. The landlady takes Dayan aside and asks about Bitna. A flashback shows the scene when Dayan was in the hospital. The doctor had declared Bitna dead, and Dayan, heartbroken, went to her side and moved the sheet off her face, crying intensely. Miraculously, when his tear touched Bitna's face, she came back to life. Dayan rushed to call the doctors. Later, we see Bitna in hell as Baal approaches her. Baal tells Bitna that she didn't listen to him, and because of that, she's lost her right to be his heir. Baal tells her that she must now pay the price, and a door opens. Baal points toward it, saying that eternal death awaits her on the other side. Bitna begins walking forward when Gabriel appears, claiming to be a messenger from God. Gabriel says that God has seen Bitna's journey and how she helped relieve many people by punishing Taiu. For this, Bitna deserves another chance at life. Gabriel insists that Baal must follow the order. Reluctantly, Baal agrees and leaves. Bitna then asks Gabriel if his presence means he sacrificed himself to save her, to which Gabriel confirms, saying Bitna was the last person he was meant to save. Bitna questions why he asked her to release Taiu, and Gabriel reveals it was her final test, which she passed. Gabriel then urges her to return as her work is still unfinished. In the present, Bitna regains consciousness, but Dayan warns her to stay still since she's still weak. Bitna reassures him that she's fine and tells him how she has been healed. Just then, Dayan gets a call informing him that Taiu has escaped from prison. We then see Taiju's lawyer arriving with a fake passport and some money for Taiu. Taiu asks if anyone else knows about it, and as the lawyer turns to retrieve his phone, Taiu attacks him from behind, killing him, and drives off in the lawyer's car. As Bitna leaves the hospital, Dayan asks if she plans to go after Taiu. Bitna replies, asking if he would try to stop her. Dayan says no, noting that, as a police officer, he will find Taiu but will leave the choice to Bitna on what to do. Dayan simply advises her to be careful. Meanwhile, Taiu is driving and makes a call, discovering there's an issue with his passport that requires correction. Frustrated, he speeds up. Bitna is observing all of this in a mirror. Mando tells Bitna that Taiu is heading to his vacation home, and she instructs him to arrive on time before setting out herself. Dayan and his team discover the lawyer's body, surmising that Taiu escaped in the lawyer's car. Their superior orders them to track the car. Taiu, meanwhile, arrives at his vacation home and starts to relax. Suddenly, he hears the doorbell ring. Picking up a stone for protection, he approaches the door, but Bitna calls out to him, descending the stairs. Taiu accuses her of betrayal, but Bitna calmly responds that deception is in the nature of demons, much like him. Taiu attacks her with the stone, but Bitna retaliates, pushing him back, causing him to injure himself. She tells him he's committed many crimes without seeking forgiveness. Taiu laughs, and Bitna tells him he'll now understand the pain his victims felt. Taiu finds himself suddenly in a dense forest, with Bitna behind him. Taiu, bewildered, asks where they are. Bitna explains the site relates to his killings and that just as he enjoyed hurting others, she will now enjoy hunting him. Bitna tells him she has prepared something special for him and begins attacking him with arrows. She gives him a 10-second head start before resuming her relentless attacks, and Taiu, writhing in pain, tries to escape, feeling the agony of each arrow hitting him. Bitna ultimately kills Taiu and Taiu then finds himself in hell, where Bitna calls Warrior of Hell alongside Satan. Bitna tells them both that they have betrayed each other, and they are very angry as a result. To help them vent their rage, Bitna gives each of them a sword and challenges them to fight each other. Taiu mocks, asking what an old man can do, but they start dueling. Satan says that he is not his father and would not spare him, and an intense fight breaks out between them. Eventually, Satan beheads Taiu, laughing as he does so. The Warrior of Hell takes him back, while Bitna approaches Taiu, saying there is still one more place to go. Next, Taiu appears in Dayan house and in a fit of rage, determined to kill Bitna. However, Bitna arrives, and as he lunges forward to attack, she cuts off his hand, leaving him in excruciating pain. Bitna tells him that just as he dismembered the bodies of her loved ones, she will do the same to him. But Taiu insists he did nothing wrong and that he actually solved a problem by killing them. But Bitna attacks him, then he is back to his vacation home. Taiu starts begging for mercy, pleading for her not to hurt him. Bitna hands him some clothes, ordering him to change. Once Taiu changes, Bitna beats him severely, leaving him in tears and begging for forgiveness. Bitna commands him to apologize to the families of his victims, which Taiu does. At that moment, Bitna pulls out a knife and kills him, sending him to hell. Bitna leaves, and the police team arrives at Taiju's house the next morning. They are horrified to find him hanged, with 14 coffins placed in front of him, each containing body parts of his victims. The sight leaves everyone emotional, especially Dayan. In the present, the landlady asks Dayan about Bitna, and we see that Bitna is at the funeral, eating. She asks for more food, and Gremory brings her more. Bitna is surprised by her presence, and the Gremory explains that she feels it's the least she can do for the person who saved Bitna's life. Meanwhile, cleaners arrive telling Bitna about covering of news of Taiju's death. Bitna has a brief conversation with them when Dayan appears, and then Bitna goes to place flowers for Mija. Bitna says that if they meet again, she'll take Mija out for dinner and thank her, though Mija overhears her from heaven. Later, Dayan and Bitna are sitting together, where Dayan tells Bitna that everything is finally over and that she will have to return to hell. Dayan asks if Bitna can stay, but Bitna reassures him that she doesn't have to leave. Then we see Bitna alone somewhere, and Bale appears, saying he had no idea that she involved an angel. Bale mentions that he was initially angry, but now that she has completed her mission, she can return to hell. However, Bale says she's still his heir. Bitna asks for a favor for a 3-year vacation from hell, promising to return as a loyal heir after that. In the present, she tells Dayan about this, and Dayan asks if she'll leave in 3 years. Bitna assures him that until then, they will make many memories together and live happily. Dayan agrees, and they share a happy moment and hug. Bitna is packing her things in her office when Mando offers to help, but Bitna tells him to go home, saying she'll see him later. As Bitna leaves, her colleagues come to say goodbye, cheerfully wishing her well. Bitna asks if they're dating, and they reply that anything is possible. Bitna smiles and leaves. When Bitna is leaving her home, the landlady and others bid her farewell, and Bitna happily says goodbye to them. When Bitna leaves, the landlady whispers her thank you. The scene shifts to 2 years later, where Bitna is in court, trying to resolve a fight between two people. The bickering annoys her, and when Bitna leaves the courtroom, meeting with her colleague who tells her that someone has come to see her. Bitna is delighted and goes to meet Dayan. Dayan reminds her that 2 years have passed and asks if he should consider a transfer. Bitna jokes that she is the one who should transfer and remark that she is selfish. Dayan jokes, agreeing that she's always been selfish, and they share a light-hearted moment. Just then, Bitna receives a call notifying her that her transfer is complete. Bitna tells Dayan and she's curious to see how everyone is doing. In the next scene, we see Minnyong working in a company, and later she goes out to eat with her friend. The waiter brings her food, and Minnyong says she didn't order it. The waiter tells her that another lady ordered it for her, who is seated nearby. Minnyong looks and sees Kan, then Bitna, who has come to meet grandmother. Bitna is happy to see her grandma's business doing well, and Jiho has created another painting for her. Bitna listens to her victim mother, who is undergoing therapy to regain her happiness, which makes Bitna feel at ease. We see the cleaners, where Yugyang is with his mother, happy to be together. Bitna feels joy watching everyone content, and one of the cleaners suggests that she should worry about Mando. We then see Mando at a temple, asking a monk if his actions will send him to heaven. The monk gives him a stern look before leaving. Bitna returns to her villa, where she sees everyone together, laughing and playing. Bitna feels comforted. Bitna then joins all villa members, greeting everyone happily, and they all share joyful moments together when Bitna is sitting on the rooftop. Dayan comes over to her. They talk, and she tells him how happy she is to see all of them. Dayan asks how she feels about meeting him, and she shares a happy moment with him. Dayan explains how he missed her. At the team leader's house, we see that Dahue is running late for school. She quickly tells her mom she's heading out, says goodbye to everyone, and leaves for school. Next, outside of court, we see a welcome for Bitna, with banners and people cheering for her. As she enters, everyone praises and admires her. Bitna looks around the court closely, as though she had missed it all. When she arrives in her office, her colleagues surprise her, telling her that a reporter who once criticized her has now written something positive. The reporter also calls her Joker indirectly due to her previous rulings, which annoys Bitna, so she decides to read it herself. Afterward, she feels pleased in her office and sits with her colleagues. They show her a video on YouTube where the chief judge has YouTube named the grandfather of law. Bitna finds it a bit cringeworthy. Then her colleagues hands Bitna a wedding card, shocking her. The woman explains that she fell in love with him when she saw his glow in court. Later, Bitna walking on road meets Dahue and her friend. Dahue's friend asks Bitna to buy them burgers. At a restaurant while they eat, Dahue talks about her friend's supportive nature, and Bitna, watching them, sends Dahue off to get ice cream. Bitna then tells the friend that he's a bit rude, and he responds that friends are supposed to be that way. This reminds Bitna of Gabriel, who used to say the same thing. It turns out Gabriel is indeed the friend, and Bitna is happy to see him. Later, in her office Bitna is busy at work. Bale comes to visit Bitna, who says she has one more year left. Bale explains that he has come to see her after 2 years. These are the greetings he is getting. Bale shares that Lucifer has made Bitna an offer if she kills 10 sinners within 1 year and sends them to hell she can become fully human forever. Bale expresses hope that Bitna will refuse and will be choosing to be his heir. Bale urging her to decide quickly since Lucifer doesn't like waiting. Then Bale leaves. At the police station, they discover that criminals similar to Taiu and others have been found murdered, but there's no information about their murders. So they're planning to close the cases. The senior officers feel embarrassed for not solving them. As they leave, Dayan receives a message from Bitna to meet her later to discuss something important. They meet at night, and Dayan asks what she wanted to talk about. Bitna reveals she has a chance to become human but would need to sentence criminals more leniently, which might hurt the victims' families. Dayan tells her he trusts her to make the right decision. They hold hands and leave together. The next day in court, Bitna sees a mother of a victim crying, while the accused is making light of the situation, laughing and saying the victim is still alive. This upsets Bitna, and she adjourns the trial for the day. As she leaves, a teacher nearby is teaching children about the goddess of justice and asks Bitna to explain justice to the kids. Bitna excuses herself, saying she's busy, but the kids insist. Bitna then tells them that she is a demon. Children laugh, saying no demon is pretty. The kids then ask why the statue's eyes are covered and why it holds a sword. Bitna explains that the eyes are covered to symbolize fair judgment and the sword to punish criminals. When the children ask if she's truly good or bad, Bitna says, "I'm the judge from hell," hinting that she might return to her old ways, taking down sinner and staying human. This ending suggests that Bitna might start killing the sinners to gain her human form. I hope you enjoyed this series. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel.